Good morning, everyone. I hope I'm loud and clear. First of all, let me thank you all for joining this session. Really appreciate your time, guys. I hope we can do justice to your time. So we will have a very interesting session for those of you who have not heard about these new technologies from Autodesk. I hope that you find these quite interesting and you start adopting it. With this, I'll start. Hello everyone, my name is Kirti Maluru. I'm the technical specialist at Autodesk, looking after the design and manufacturing set of technologies. Today we have a very interesting session on something called as generative design. And people who would have used Fusion 360 in the past would have some clue about what generative design is all about. But if not, I'll try my level best to give you a complete overview of what generative design is all about and how you can use it to improve uh, your competency of your product line and everything. So today's agenda looks like this. It starts with an overview. I'll go through some live examples, certain success stories, then summary and resources, and some information. So now, before I begin, I always like to give a bit of a background as to why these things, why newer trends are emerging. There are a lot of new trends, new technologies that are emerging. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, additive manufacturing, generative design, etc., that is emerging. But why? So one of the reasons, let's do a fact check. So as per a study, by the year 2050, the planet is going to see 10 billion people of us. So that's a huge shift in the number of people living on the planet. At the same time, the fact now is every day across the globe, a major majority of people are gaining economic freedom. It means that they are moving from a lower economic strata to a higher economic strata. So they are moving into something called as the middle class segment. So with middle class segment, what happens is you get something called as a buying power. So now they have a considerable share of the buying power. With buying power, people will start moving from maybe rural areas into urban cities or you need to develop more smart cities to accommodate the newer set of people who are gaining more economic freedom. So with that, what happens is with buying power, you need more of things. So when I say more of things, it is more of buildings, more of vehicles, more of infrastructure, more of cities, more of raw materials, and everything. Right? I hope till now you agree with me on this. At the same time, the sad reality is there is a less of everything. There is less of infrastructure, there is less of natural resources, there is less of raw materials, there is less of skilled labors, and etc. and etc. Right? More is inevitable, but we also know that less is a reality. So that is where we have a very unique advantage of being better, to do better and be better for the sake of the planet. So one of the key drivers in this is innovation. But at the same time, from an industry perspective, innovation looks a very fancy word and everybody would be doing a lot of innovation. But there are some real challenges or barriers that we face towards adoption. That is, we have very limited time to ideate or create lot of concepts and work on the, so time is a big barrier for us. At the same time, technology is also a big barrier for us. We don't have sufficient technology to cater for that needs. Skilled labor who knows everything about everything is also a big dirt that we see in the industry. There is a huge disconnect between your design and manufacturing. So the design is more driven by manufacturing constraints, or even if there are newer manufacturing methods like DFAM, but it is still being driven by the age-old way of design thinking. So there is a huge disconnect between design and manufacturing. We all know this, late stage changes are, highly cost prohibitive. So you cannot uh, afford a change very late in the product life cycle. And another key factor is, how do I find the right balance between performance and cost? Now, performance of a product could vary depending upon its material, depending upon its manufacturing methods, and a lot of things. So, how do I balance that? Do I have the time, sufficient time to do such an elaborate analysis to get the right balance between performance and cost? So these are certain real-time challenges that we are facing. Why? Because the world is undergoing a lot of different shift in business, shift in trends, and a lot of things. Globalization is impacting. Everybody has to be competitive to be globally accepted. Time to market has to shrink. You have to get the ROI much faster as your conventional or previously created product lines and other things. So let's look at the traditional design process. The traditional design process is pretty simple. I have a couple of concepts that I have with me, which I will evaluate, check the feasibility of it, see whether it is manufacturable or not, validate it, and then send for production. So that constitutes my time to market, right from my concept till production part of it. So I have multiple phases here, the iteration phase and the design production phase. And what we know is changes late in this stage will lead to a huge incur in cost. So this is my traditional design process. But what if, again, what I say, but what if we can shrink the overall time to market without compromising on any of the processes in between, and having a system which can pre-validate all those steps, pre-validate it for feasibility, pre-validate it for function, pre-validate it for fabrication or manufacturability part of it, which then gets into directly into production part. That is where, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Autodesk Generative Design, which is a design exploration technology that is available with Autodesk Fusion 360. So as I stressed, it is a design exploration technology which can help you to create multiple different design concepts for a single problem statement. That's the key here. For a single problem statement, it is able to derive or deliver multiple outcomes, which is again preconditions for certain manufacturing constraints or design principle, that it should have a form, it should have a functionality, at the same time it should be able to be manufactured. That is the key here. So that is where Autodesk Generative Design can help you to shorten the overall time to market. Let's see how it works. So with generative design approach, what we see basically is a pre-validated multiple different manufacturable viable options, which are pre-validated for strength, for manufacturability, for functionality, for form, everything, and then directly it gets into production part of it, thus shrinking your overall time to market by a huge margin. So this is where generative design can help you to shrink your overall time to market, give you means of technology which can help you to improve your product performance, improve your product innovation, at the same time help you to reduce your overall product cost. So when I say improve product performance, I can look at optimizing my existing part, either in terms of performance, in terms of weight, everything. At the same time, I can increase my innovation capacity. I can look at 100 different design concepts and pick and choose the best one which suits all my technical specification and works the way I want it and meeting all my criteria of business goals. Or it can also help me in terms of reducing the number of product costs. Let's say you have a sub assembly with 3 or 4 components. Can I look at a different means of thinking where I can combine the 3 or 4 components into a single component by looking at different means of production or manufacturing as well. So that is the beauty of generative design, which can help you to give multiple outcomes for a single problem statement, which are either CAD ready or almost CAD ready outcomes. And again, this is the most critical part of it, that it is not just meant for one single type of manufacturing method or production method. It can be used for your new types of manufacturing methods like additive manufacturing, or your conventional manufacturing like your die casting, or your 3-axis milling, 4-axis milling, 5-axis milling, 2.5-axis milling, or even the cutting operation. So it could be for your additive manufacturing process or subtractive manufacturing process equally. At the same time, it is also equipped with costing tool. So we have partnered with the costing application called as a priori, which can help me to provide the necessary cost needed for me to produce that part using certain types of manufacturing methods. So this can very beautifully help me to basically evaluate the trade-off between performance versus cost. And depending upon your project cost, your project budget, your requirements, your performance needs, your optimization needs, your cost needs, you will be in a much better position to basically do an informed decision as to, in this curve, where do I fit well, which can help me to derive ROI, which can help me to ensure that it is of superior performance and cater to all my needs. See the beauty here. It is not just helping you to generate outcomes, but you can also basically ensure cost versus performance, which is very much needed for your company to understand which is the best process which can yield me the most profitable margin. So let's look at I'm sure that everybody would be interested that, okay, it looks quite futuristic. Who should be the recipients of such, or who should be using those? So let's look at that. We actually did a very scientific approach. We talked to a lot of customers, interviewed them, made them our partner in this overall journey. And what we found out was, some of the recipients of generative design had some of these key customer priorities or business objectives or goals. So they have they have either an R&D center, they have an NPI team, or they are somebody who is known for market drivers. They are market leaders, or they have an additive manufacturing initiative, or currently they have this overall goal of reducing cost, reducing weight, increasing performance, having a sustainability goal in your organization to reduce the overall weight, material wastage, etc., etc. So those are some of the key customer priorities would fit very well into the use case for using generative design. And if I plot it against a radar chart, so basically, these are the different priorities, and let's say customer one has this as the top priority, and rest, his priority changes. Or at the same time, if I look at customer 3 or 1 or 4, so you can basically go ahead and plot. So how, using a scale of 0 to 1, if considering this as 0 and this as 5, to not at all important to very important. So we actually did certain studies with couple of customers. So one of the customer was Will, who does personal mobility, and for them, their top 3 priorities were within the where the top 3 business objectives were within their priorities, within our priorities as well. So they actually used and adopted a generative design to help them in their performance initiatives. At the same time, Claudius Peters, who is an industrial equipment provider, they had a lot of priorities which fits very well within the generative design priorities as well. And they use this as a means to reduce waste, reduce cost, as well as increase the performance. At the same time, General Motors, who is an automotive giant, they also plotted, and it fits very well within the generative design priorities as well. So we will look at their success stories at the later stage. So the beauty of generative design is it is industry agnostic. It doesn't matter which industry you have to apply in manufacturing. It can be applied to anything, to anything. It could be automotive, aerospace, consumer products, medical, high tech, industrial machines, industrial equipment, heavy equipment. So any of the industries, which can help you to basically increase your performance, give you a competitive edge, improve your innovation capacity, and also help you to maybe explore different manufacturing methods as well. So now let's look at a bit the deep dive into what the generative design is all about. So as I had established earlier, generative design is a design exploration technology. The key here is it is manufacturing aware. Okay, it is not just topology optimization where it is not manufacturing aware. You just have already a part and you are going to remove certain weight from it. But in generative design, you are basically creating an entirely new design depending upon certain attributes, which is again manufacturing aware. You can basically test it out for multiple materials, different loading conditions, constraints, different manufacturing technologies, and finally you get a CAD ready or an almost CAD ready geometry. And the best way to put it is, this is a very, very beautiful example of amalgamation of a human and a machine working together for a common cause, that is improved design. So let's look at how it works. So basically, as a human being, I am very, very good at articulating a problem. So I can articulate a problem, provide the problem definition, get the design intent right. Now, using certain machine learning algorithms, AI, and intelligent algorithms, using that design intent which the human provides, is able to come up with multiple variants for the use case of that design without any design bias. I'll talk about what is design bias. So a machine will not have any bias. At the same time, if I am going to solve for 100 different design options, I don't think I can afford to do it in my local server and increasing my hardware capacities and other things. but this is very well gelled with cloud compute power, which can help you to derive those different design options in a factor, in a fraction of the time that it takes doing the conventional way. This leads to multiple different design options which are bound by certain design or manufacturing principles like it should have a form, it should be able to function, and it should be able to be fabricated. So let's look at an example here. Let's say if I am being posed with a question that design a chair. So what I'll do is automatically I will start designing a chair which either has 3 legs or 4 legs, because from my childhood my mind is conditioned to see a chair which has either 3 or 4 legs. So that is called as design bias. That is now kind of hard coded in my system. But a machine does not have any kind of a bias. It will start generating design ideas based on the intent of that problem statement. So what is the intent of the problem statement? It should be able to support a weight, let's say 200 kgs, 300 kgs on the ground. And it should have a resting plate on which the human can sit. So that will be the problem statement. So to the max, I can design something like this, not with the internal mesh, but outside, or maybe with 3 legs. But a machine can come up with a shape like this, which meets all my requirements. So if you just do a 1:1 comparison between weight between these 3 models, it is humongous change. I am able to reduce close to 70% of the weight. Forget 70%. Even if I'm able to reduce 30%, 40%, I'm sure people who are from the industry will absolutely appreciate the value of it that it can give them for their industry or for their companies. So that is the beauty of generative design. So now let's look at a couple of use cases. So one of the examples that we run, one of the first examples that we run basically was a GE engine bracket. Okay, so what is the application of a bracket here? The application of a bracket here is this particular bracket is basically going to be fitted into a larger assembly where the bracket rests on some other platform which is bolted. Agreed? I hope people are following me till now. And there is a pin that goes through this mounting hole, a clevis pin basically, clevis pin through this mounting hole, which is used to pull, push, I don't know, rotate, provide torque or whatever it is. So there is movement there. So what do we know about this bracket? I know that it is going to be bolted at these 4 locations. So it is grounded. It is fully constrained. And there is the pin is going to be inserted into this mounting hole, which is subjected to different loading conditions. It could be vertical load, horizontal load, downward load, angular load, torsional load, whichever is the problem definitions. At the same time, what they are looking at is, I'm looking at something from TI6AI4V, which is basically a additive manufacturing material. So they are looking at drastically reducing the weight, of it. And they have given certain requirements, and we will comply with all these requirements. So let us take a look at the software itself. So people who are familiar with Fusion 360 would know this. Else, this is the user interface of Fusion 360. Fusion 360 is a cloud-based CAD, CAM, CAE, generative design, electronic design platform. So you can see here, I can do design, I can do analysis, I can do animation, rendering, nesting, manufacturing. I can do my CAM, my drawing. On top of it, I can also do electronic design if that is something that you do. And it also has the ability to do the generative design aspect of it as well. So in this case, let me just hide a couple of things. So this is my bracket, right? So what do I know? I know that it is being fixed at these four locations. So what does it mean? So it means that these four locations are absolutely critical. So irrespective of whether I have a shape like this or not, but these four holes are absolutely critical because it is being assembled to a larger assembly, or it is being constrained to a larger assembly. So what I do is I go ahead and create four cylinders like this, which represents this particular area which is being bolted to another part or a component. At the same time, what I also know is I need these mounting holes because a clevis pin is going to be inserted here. So I need these two mounting holes as well. So I go ahead and model these mounting holes. So again, if you look at this one, nothing from a modeling perspective, you basically have to do nothing here. You are just creating cylinders and something like that. Okay. Now, what do I also need to tell the software is, so with this, so this is my starting point. With this, the shape will be generated in accordance to my constraints that I have given, right? Now, I also need to be careful because at the end of the day, it will generate material everywhere. But because this is being bolted, so it will be bolted something like this, right? Bolted, or whatever, by whatever means a tool has to enter these hole and fix the bolt. So it means to say that I should not have any material here. So I also create something called as obstacle geometry. So what it is basically telling is, in this cylinders that you are seeing, don't create any kind of a material for me. So because this is the where a tool has to be accessed and it has to be used to constrain, to strengthen, or whatever needs to be done. At the same time, I don't need any material to be placed in the clevis pin because there is another shaft that is going to pass through the mounting holes. So far so good, I hope. So this is what I go ahead and define. And at the same time, I define a platform telling that I don't want any material to be generated below this particular platform. Okay, so once this is done, next thing what I do is basically I start going ahead and defining my constraints. So I go ahead and constrain that, these four, let me just hide the obstacle, that these four bolting holes are constrained. So I go ahead and constrain it. I have various types of constraint. In this case, it is fixed. It could be pin, frictionless, depending upon whatever you are doing. Then I go ahead and define that there is a load. So we talked about in the presentation, right? So there is an upward load that is being subjected. So I go ahead and define that load. So I define that there is 12,000 newtons, whatever is defined there, which is being exerted towards the top. And I also go ahead and say that gravity is also active. So it basically acts in the downward location. And I can also go ahead and define all the three different loading conditions that one defined. Same case, I go ahead and do it. Once this is done, the next thing that I need to do is define the objective. So your objective is what? Either to minimize the mass, or if you are looking at part enhancement, you can also go ahead with maximizing the stiffness part of it. So in this case, I can go ahead and provide a safety factor. Whatever is your safety factor, you can go ahead and define it. Then if you're also looking at a first mode frequency that needs to be analyzed and checked for vibration, I can go ahead and define that as well. So it will pre-validate the vibration or the modal nodes for you. Then You can also define the displacement if you want. Okay, I don't want a displacement more than some value in X, Y, and Z direction, depending upon the pull and other things. So I can go ahead and define that. So these are objectives that can be preconditions and predefined. The another step you have to do is I have to define my manufacturing process. So in this case, I say that it's a production volume of 2500. Uh, there are multiple manufacturing means which I can use. So in this case, I will use unrestricted. So unrestricted is a means where it is not following any manufacturing means. It is just uh, creating design depending upon whatever seems right. At the same time, there is also something which follows the manufacturing principles like additive manufacturing. So you can define the overhang angle, minimum thickness. Or if you are looking at conventional means of manufacturing like 3-axis, 5-axis, 2.5-axis, you can go ahead and define. Not only define that, you can also define the tool direction along with all the tool specs like tool diameter, head diameter, etc., etc. So it becomes easier for you to pick and choose the tool in your CAM functionality. Or if you are looking at a cutting operation, so I can go ahead and use 2-axis cutting as an operation. Or if you are looking at die casting, I can go ahead and choose the various parameters that are available, and it will also solve for die casting as an option. And lastly, what I can also do is define the different materials that I would want to check for. So at a time, using for a single study, I can solve for 10 different materials. In this case, I have only chosen 3: stainless steel, then titanium, and aluminium. But if you want to choose more than that, there is a huge library of different materials, metals, depending whether it is metal, plastic, stone, wood, gas, and all those things, whether it is additive materials or whether it is non-linear materials as well. So you can go ahead and do that. And finally, I go ahead and generate this. So generative design works on the consumption of cloud credits. So I'll talk about that in the later part of the presentation. So for each solve, it will consume 25 cloud credits. So once I go ahead and solve it, I have multiple different options now that are available to me. So you can see for a single problem statement, some of them has come out very odd because maybe I have chosen aluminium as the material. So it is basically telling that, if you look at here, it is telling that, this is not the right material for you to go ahead and choose for this particular bracket for that particular load, because it does not comply with certain of my objectives. So it is that intelligent. So it is not just give you only good ones, it will also tell you why this does not work as well. So now it has given me multiple, I have so many different options to choose from. And the beauty of this one is it is not just that you can run it and then you have to work a lot to understand it. There are various levels of filter mechanism given for you to study each and every outcome in detail. So I can go ahead and study this in detail. What is the property, what is the manufacturing method, what is the price, what is the burden cost, volume, mass, von Mises stresses, displacement if that is provided, everything you can go ahead and study. Or this is something that most of the companies use, that is they basically do a scatter plot analysis. So they understand and plot it against various different needs. So they say that, okay, if I want to plot, show me the best ones which follows a minimum factor of safety, but at the same time it has against weight. So I can say, okay, this looks something doable. From something which was 3.5 kgs, this looks something that looks okay. Is this something that looks fine? No. Or depending upon whatever is your this thing, this looks fine. I can look at this one. This follows within my range. Or you can look at, okay, show me all those things which are visually similar. This looks visually similar for me. Or by manufacturing method, show me everything that is set for manufacturing method or for different materials. So you can basically go ahead and pick and choose, or I can just go ahead and maybe do a filtration here itself. So let's say I show me only those models which follows between 0.3 and let's say 2. So it will only show me those models which are following in that, or lesser than that, or more than that. Or let's say volume is a criteria for it. So I can go ahead and do that. Or let's say, von Mises stresses looks high. So show me only those which are less than this. So I want something within 250 megapascals. So it is going to show me only those. Or if you are a guy who likes to kind of check doing a 1:1 comparison, I can use this kind of a mode or a means as well. So in this case, now let's look at this one. So what we get is basically the final outcome of it. So this is how my new model looks like, which is, I believe, less, I think 40% less in weight as compared to my original bracket. Imagine the amount of time that is saving, and this can be manufactured using additive manufacturing, and the material could be what, this is aluminum or something like that. It could be titanium as well. I don't know which material is that. At the same time, I can do a deep dive on understanding this, like, let's say, what is the stresses? Where am I seeing the high stresses? So there is a high stress here, but it's next to negligible. So it means that I can basically, most of it falls within the ideal range. So everything is highly ideal. This is a bit low, so maybe I can think of increasing the thickness of this particular location. So imagine this is now pre-validated for strength and functionality as well. And how it looks like, if I want to look at it from the design preview, so this is how it looks like. So there is no hindrance here, so it can be easily be bolted, and there is no hindrance here as well. Or if you want to compare this with, let's say, another design, let's say something like this. Let's see whether it shows me or not. Just give me a second. Yeah, fantastic. So I am now able to basically compare two different designs. So you can see here what is the design change here. Let me plot a stress plot here. This is much more steady because there is much more material here as compared to this. But at the same time, this could be heavier and this could be much lighter. At the same time, the performance might be more or less same. So if you look at mass 0.48, this is 0.36, stresses is 118, stresses is 137. So I hope you got my point, right? That's the beauty of this thing. And finally, if you want to export this data and you want to work on it, okay, I can basically go ahead and do that as well. Yeah. So in this case, so I already have this data. If you want, you can use it as it is. Material is titanium and other things. And I can directly go ahead and even open this design. Now, this is where for you to consume this or download this particular design, it will consume 100 cloud credit points. At the time it opens, I will just start with the newer, yeah. So this is the model that it has generated for. Imagine I have a ready-made CAD output. Now using this, if you want to maybe, see that, okay, I want to strengthen this area and this area, you can maybe further refine it to make it much more production ready as well. So imagine, you have now multiple different concepts through which you can go ahead and start exploring and pick and choose the best one. We'll take an example of another use case is, let's say I want to design a shelf corner bracket. So what is the use case of this? There is a platform on which there will be load, basically books and other things, and this has to be fixed onto a wall. So there is a bracket that is needed. And what is the problem definition? This is being constrained by a bracket which is being fixed at these locations, and there will be a load. So the bracket will be fixed here, and there will be a load that will be acting on top of it, right? So let's look at the example here. Okay, so very simple. This is what needs to be done. Okay, these are my 4 bolting holes locations where it is going to be fixed, and I don't want any material to be here because it has to be seamlessly be bolted as well. So this is the problem definition that I have given, and then I say that there is a load that is being acted on top of it. There is gravity and other things and all. Same thing, I define different multiple criterias, objectives, materials, manufacturing methods and other things. And after this, I get a design, multiple designs like this. This is so beautifully looking designs. Now, again, some of these designs you say, okay, might look good, but might not be manufacturable. But if you're looking at additive manufacturing, absolutely this will be manufacturable. And mind you, Fusion 360 has a simulation tool as well. So if you want to do, let's say, a buckling analysis, I can just directly export it as a model and take it into simulation and do a buckling analysis as well. Or let's say a 2.5 axis model like this. This is much dual. It looks very nice. It has enough leeway for the tools to pass through. Look, see the beauty here. It has thought about everything. So if I have a screwdriver or something, it can directly pass through here. And again, this is one of the designs. Okay, there are multiple such designs that are coming out of it. There's something like this. So now for you can basically go ahead and, I showed that scatter plot diagram, right? So you can go ahead and do a pricing comparison and see which is the best viable option that looks okay to you, and you can go ahead and start working on it. Let's look at a couple of other industry use cases as well. So this is one of our customers, who did a pick and place assembly. Basically what, there is a gripper, it's a robotic gripper. So there is a modular structure, there are vacuum pumps, there is an air channel, and this modular structure is very, very heavy. Depending upon this structure, you have to basically size your actuation system. So heavier your structure, you would have to go for a higher actuation system. Lesser the weight, you can look for a lesser low actuation system, again, which will lead to reduction in the cost of it. So what do we know about this? So there is vacuum pumps. So this is absolutely critical for me. There are air channels. This is also, these locations are absolutely critical for me. These locations, because air channels will be fixed here. And finally, this is the modular structure. I know which material, where it is being fixed, what is the load that it is being subjected to, and then they ran generative design for all the different types of manufacturing methods. They got very, very interesting different outcomes out of it. One was, a shape like this. Again, this was done using additive manufacturing. 3 different components. Same like the previous one, but which is optimized for weight. So this is optimized for weight. At the same time, they also looked at part consolidation. can I get something which is clubbed from 3 components into one? So this is a shape where it is basically one component and not 3 components. So imagine, you are not spending time in manufacturing of 3 different components. You are just looking at only one single component. On top of it, there is weight benefit, and it gives robustness to the performance of the gripper as well. So they went ahead and printed out to just check the feasibility and validity of it. So we have various tools like NetFab, which can help you in printing, deep diving into understanding how metal printing can be done, what should be the support structure, how much support structure is needed, and other things and all. They also did a milling operation. So Fusion comes with the CAM inbuilt. So they tested it for milling operation and checked, what is the cycle time, whether it is manufacturable or not. They also did the casting part of it, understood how casting can be done. They also did a 2.5 axis milling, where they got shapes like this, and out of this shape they were able to derive a shape like this, which is almost 25% lightweight for each structure of that module. So imagine the amount of weight that is saved here. At the same time, let's look at another example of a super bike. So this is from our customer called as Lightning. So basically, this is a super bike, so for them performance and speed is of utmost importance. So they started identifying all the components in that bike which are heavy. So one of the components they found out was the swing arm. So these are custom made, okay? These are not mass manufactured, these are custom made for individual preferences. So then they went ahead using the swing arm. So swing arm is one of the most heaviest structures in the vehicle, and it's a load bearing as well. So you basically have to come up with a stage which should not compromising on any of those. So they identified how it is being constrained, how it is connected to the overall mechanism of the vehicle, what are the different loads, which are all the different obstacles, and how the shape should be defined, the different loads that needs to be done, what all different studies it has to undergo, the different manufacturing means that they would want to look at. And when they ran generative design, they were able to come up with, I don't know, God knows how many different design studies. And out of which, using a scatter plot diagram, they started identifying only those critical areas which were very relevant for them. And then they did further studies to check, what is the impact on strength, stiffness, and the most important part is the drag, so that it does not have any impact on the drag part of it. And they were able to see substantial benefit in terms of the overall performance of the vehicle, as well as the performance of that swing arm as a single component itself. Let's look at some diverse customers stories as well. So this is again, when we talked about that, who should be interested. So we basically talked about certain customer personas and why they were interested. So we partnered with General Motors for their electrification of vehicles, where one of their challenges was to drastically reduce the weight of the vehicles. So they came to us with a problem statement that we just don't want to reduce the weight individually, but is there a way where I can club multiple moving components and make it as a single component? So they identified a seat belt bracket fixture, and they defined the problem statement as that bracket fixture should be 40% lighter, 20% more stronger than my current design, and 8 components has to be clubbed, or it should form a single component or a single part. So basically they wanted to convert a sub assembly into a single part. So they went ahead. So this was the original structure with 8 components, and they were able to manufacture it using additive manufacturing and which looks like this. So they used generative design, out of which they were able to come up with the shape, not compromising on the quality, performance, as well as the robustness of that particular member. It gave hundreds and different ideas, out of which they filter down to the best possible one, which can be manufactured, which is 40% lighter, 20% more strong. At the same time, all the 8 components in that seat belt fixture was fused into a single component. So this particular process was called as part consolidation. So they were able to consolidate 8 parts into a single component, and having the same kind of flexibility, durability, and performance. Then again, an aerospace customer. So basically, this is an aileron bracket, which is most commonly used in any of the design textbooks. So they were able to reduce the weight of this particular bracket using a different material and different manufacturing method by more than 50%. Again, this is very, very critical, because in aerospace, even a reduction of 1 gram in weight has an impact on performance and fuel consumption. And they were able to reduce the weight of this by more than 50%, at the same time having more strength because of a different material. This is a customer from an industrial equipment manufacturer. So these guys basically makes industrial equipment for process plant industries. So for a cement plant industry, they design these kind of clinkers, which goes into the kiln or a furnace, subjected to very, very high temperature. So their problem statement was, and they are a very sustainable company. So they are looking at different avenues to reduce wastage, reduce material, and reduce cost. So what they said was, we have not gone into additive manufacturing, so but we want to do it in conventional way. So look at options where I can manufacture it into conventional way. So with their existing, that is 160 or 170 kgs, using generative design, they were able to come up with a design which could be manufactured conventionally using subtractive manufacturing means. They were able to reduce 1/3 the weight of it, sorry, 2/3 the weight of it. So from around 170 kgs to around 50 kgs. Imagine the impact on environment. That's the beauty here. Again, another customer we talked about, Will. So they basically make personal mobility, and one of the requirement was they have to drastically reduce the overall weight of this mobility vehicles by more than 30 to 40%, because this is usually kept in the car, in the trunk of a car. So people should be able to lift it up very easily. So they basically then use generative design to change the entire frame into a frame like this, where they were able to reduce 30% of the weight. We work very closely with NASA as well, where for again, anything that is related to motion, that it could be automotive, it could be aerospace, it could be space, weight reduction or mass reduction is of utmost importance, because that directly leads to reduced consumption of fuel and increased performance. So they are looking at their laboratory, they are looking at various ways by which they could reduce their overall weight of different components. So in this case, this was a interplanetary lander. So whichever planets that they are launching probe into, so basically these landers go there and sit, and then do the whatever relevant studies it has to do. So they now looked something called as a biomimicry, where this looks like a spider, legs of a spider, and they were able to achieve it using generative design, which has 35% reduction in the overall mass. And they are still looking at it from various different manufacturing or production means as well. And lastly, Airbus aircrafts that we have seen. I'm sure now everybody would be longing to travel in an aircraft. In the last 3-4 months, we have been cooped up in our home, so everybody would be longing to travel in an aircraft. But yeah, so again, in an aerospace industry, as I said, weight reduction is of utmost importance. So what they did was Airbus. So one of their partitions, so you would have seen, there is always a partition wall that separates the cabin with the crew, and that's usually a very heavy and a bulky material. So they use generative design along with our additive manufacturing software called as NetFab, and they were able to come up with a shape which was having increased strength at the same time, increased reduction in mass, at the same time not compromising on the strength of it. So again, a lot of our customers are now exploring generative design for various different reasons. Some of them are exploring to check for different design alternatives. Some of them are looking at impossible geometries, just like Airbus. Or some of them are looking at enhancing their existing part and making it much better. Or just like General Motors, some of them are looking at consolidating different materials and having a single common material or single part to reduce the number of moving components. So again, we have discussed it throughout. One of the different major differences, or there are a lot of differences. The most major difference is generative design is manufacturing aware, whereas it generates a design out of nothing depending upon the design intent. And topology optimization is a subset of generative design. Very quickly, I'll go through how it basically works. So as I said, the generative design is part of Fusion 360. And if you have to use generative design, you need to basically have cloud credits. So cloud credits are nothing but they are like currency for us. So you would need certain amount of cloud credits for you to run and download the outcomes from Fusion 360. So Fusion 360 is available either as an individual product, or it is also part of something called as product design and manufacturing collection. So if you have product design and manufacturing collection, you already have Fusion 360. If you don't, you can individually procure Fusion 360 as well. And the way it consumes those cloud credits is it consumes 25 cloud credits to basically run the analysis. So when I say run the analysis, it could be for different manufacturing methods, different materials, everything and everything. And you will be able to basically go ahead and run it. So it consumes 25 cloud credits to generate a study, which can have multiple outcomes. And for you to download that individual outcome, it consumes 100 cloud credits. There are various offerings. I request you please get in touch either with us directly or with our partners and see how you can leverage it. So there are various offerings that are available where cloud credits are inbuilt within Fusion 360, or you get 5 subscription pack of 5 with 7,500 cloud credits as well. So please do get in touch with us to get more details about it. I'll wrap it up very quickly. So there are a lot of summary and resources that are available. So I would request you to go to autodesk.in and look for Fusion 360 and generative design. You will find a lot of data regarding generative design, lot of white papers that are available, as well as a lot of published customer case studies that are available across various industries, from consumer to industrial to automotive, aerospace, everything to everything you can find, you can explore and see how this could be of benefit to you. And if you already have Fusion 360 or product design and manufacturing collection, There are a lot of learning materials that are inbuilt within the tool, which can help you to get you started right from scratch till you execute your project. So there are multiple tutorials, step-by-step tutorials that are available to get you started. And before I end, I would want to basically inform that these are difficult times. So in the last couple of months, what Autodesk has done is basically uh, provided with the new program called as Extended Access Program. This has been live from March onwards, where you can use Fusion 360 or any of our cloud offerings free of cost till June 30th. So it was started somewhere in March. So anybody can use, so it can help you to basically collaborate, enable your work from home options and other things, because it is a cloud-based tool. And you still have options if you want to try out a lot of things. Please use this extended access program. And if you want the link for it, just go to your browser and search for Autodesk Extended Access Program, and you should be able to look through it and which are all the tools that are available, and you can go ahead and start using it. So before I end, I hope it was a useful session. You were able to learn something from it. I request you to please post your questions on the Q&A panel. And before you leave, I request you that there will be a poll that will be conducted now. Please feel free to answer the poll, because that helps us to maybe align better with you again in the next webinar sessions that we do. So request you to please go ahead and answer the poll questions. It will hardly, each question will be around 30 seconds, so please request you to kindly fill the poll that is there. So somebody had asked, what are all the different options that can be given for casting? So at this moment, we cannot give the extrude direction that is being worked upon. But at this moment, what we can give is what is the ejection direction, the draft angle, thickness, and the maximum. Both minimum and maximum thickness can be defined. I hope I have answered your question. So as I said earlier, to do a first cut vibration analysis, I can provide my first mode frequency value during my during the objectives that I can define. But if you want to do a detailed, modal analysis, you can basically take it into the simulation stream that we have. I hope Mr. Manek Shah can see my screen. I can go ahead and do a complete detailed model study as well. So what generative will give you is a first mode frequency analysis that you can do. But if you want to do much more in-depth detail, I can basically take the output from here and do a detailed model frequency analysis. In the meantime, please answer the poll questions. I hope I answered your question, Mr. Manek Shah. Can we define minimum material for manufacturing? For additive manufacturing, yes, I can basically define the minimum thickness that is required for manufacturing. Don't just log off now, just wait for another 2 minutes. Yes, I can have multiple loads in a single analysis. Absolutely. Yes. That option is available. So it's the last poll question. The bracket, I think Mr. Maneksha has asked how much time it took for the bracket. For three different manufacturing method, I think it took about maybe 1 or 2 hours to the max. I don't recall it properly because it is cloud solved, right? So I just and I did not enable notification. So I just solved it and left it as it is, and next day morning. But I think it took hardly like an hour or 2 hours, to the max 2 hours, to solve for maybe close to 12 or 14 different outcomes that it has shown for three different materials and three different manufacturing means. Again, because the beauty here is it is solved on the cloud. So I am not investing on a very heavy hardware and anything like that. Everything is solved on the cloud. As soon as it gets updated, sorry, the results are generated, you can basically come and and now it's not just generative design. The simulation that we spoke about, which Fusion 360 has, even I am now able to shoot my analysis on the cloud. I don't need an HPC. I don't need to invest on a very heavy hardware and other things. So that's the best part of it. That completely. So how much time we need to work on the CAD once the design is arrived? Uh, it's a very tricky question. I'll be very honest with you. I cannot answer it directly. It basically depends on what type of manufacturing method you are going to use after that. Okay, let's say it is majorly for casting, then maybe a bit more time had to be invested, because then you would have to maybe realign your draft angle and fillets and blends. But if it is fairly a 2 axis or a 2.5 axis, very less time. Maybe just redefine your radius. That's about it. Absolutely, it does for 2 axis cutting as well. So it can be extended for sheet metal for thickness. Yes. So I think we are at the fag end of it. Thank you very much, everyone, for spending your time. Before I close, just a reminder that we are running a bunch of different webinars throughout this month. So request you to please attend all that. You can either take a snapshot or visit our website, auindia.in/webinars, and you should be able to find a host of different webinars on different technologies, different platforms that could be of use to you and your organizations. With this, I end my session. Thank you very much for your time. Stay safe. Have a great day. Bye bye. Take care. Avinash, can you stop the broadcast now?
Yes.